Thanks for being here, Susie. I appreciate your expertise, and I'm excited. I'm really excited because we're talking about tobacco next year in school, in next week in class, and learning about it, and all that. So I'm like, this is kind of a precursor and a preview of what we're going to be learning next week. So it's exciting. Yeah. I'll just let all those, we'll let Sam kind of allow all those people in, and then we'll get started. So if you're on, I appreciate you coming, and we'll start here in just a second.
Okay, it looks like we're just waiting on one person to join, but we have all 22 people.
Good. And I think we're going to have a few latecomers. Some kids said they had practice right until 6 o'clock tonight, and they said, can I join late? Or they had a commitment until 6. I said, yeah, just pop in as soon as you get home. Like, don't get in an accident. Don't stress about it. Don't leave practice because you have to leave. So there might become some latecomers. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Well, I will get this going. So welcome everybody to tonight's family engagement series. Tonight we have a great presenter with the Health and Human Services Department, and her name is Susie Rubio, and she'll be presenting on the truths about tobacco. She is a public health program specialist with Health and Human Services. And like I said, in class, I love to have experts in the area to talk about the current facts and data and give you resources to take away and be able to help yourself or a friend or family member or cousin or neighbor if they're find themselves trying to quit or wrapped up in tobacco. So she will be presenting tonight. I also want to thank Samantha Sazoyka with Partnership Carson City for hosting tonight, and just kind of want to familiarize yourself at the bottom. If you have anything you want to comment on, you can use the chat box, which is at the bottom of your screen. Just click on chat, type in your message. Samantha and I will be monitoring that chat. And also, if you have any questions, you can use the reactions to raise your hand, or just turn off your mute button, become unmuted, and ask your questions. So if anybody have any questions before we get started, I see everybody saying, yay, I'm here, yay, happy face, K, good. All right, so with nothing that I hear, thank you for being here. I know it takes some time out of your evening, but I appreciate you extending your learning in terms of the alcohol, drug, and substance unit. So I will turn this presentation over to Susie.
Hello, everybody. My name is Susie, as Erin mentioned, and I work for the Carson City Health and Human Services under the Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion for Tobacco Prevention. And we're going to be talking about basically the truth about tobacco. So just going to get started with an overall of what tobacco is, and we're going to be talking about a lot about nicotine. So essentially, nicotine is derived from the tobacco plant, and this is a chemical that's very addictive. It's found in a lot of tobacco products like cigarettes, cigars, hookah, e-cigarettes, smokeless tobacco. And most people know that these products are addictive, but they don't really understand how nicotine affects addiction, illness, and health. And we're going to talk about that a little bit throughout the presentation. So just giving you a little bit of background there. So we're going to talk about the health and harm. So essentially, I just want to make it clear that before we start that, as we're talking about these, we just want to make sure that vaping is not safe for youth, young adults, pregnant women, or adults who don't currently use any tobacco products in general. E-cigarettes are fairly new, although cigarettes have been a thing for many, many years, have been studied for at least 50 years, actually. But this is something new, and we're still researching it. So as we go through, keep that in mind that some of this data is new, and we're still learning, it's evolving, and it's a process. So just want to talk to you guys about a couple of things with e-cigarettes. There are lots of different devices. So they come in different shapes, sizes, colors, accessories, and in thousands of different flavors. Here's just a general overview. There's different generations, but there's tanks, mods, rechargeable e-cigarettes, disposable e-cigarettes, and there's different systems. So I just want to kind of go over the basics of that just to let you know how that works. So basically, an open system has parts that are removable, like the mouthpiece. These are where some of these get accessorized, or you might see that you can buy them different things. You can have superhero pieces on them, and you basically accessorize them, like if they're a phone or a battery pack, whatever you want to call it. But basically, these ones have pre-filled cartridges that have e-liquid, and e-liquid is basically the chemicals and the nicotine that produce that aerosol. And then with these rechargeable e-cigarettes, they're more of a closed system because they already come pre-filled. And then we have this one on the very far right, which are disposable e-cigarettes. And these disposable e-cigarettes are very appealing. They come in a variety of flavors. They don't have many restrictions. And they're, at least for youth, they're very easy to get rid of. It's basically a one use and they get tossed. But the danger with these tanks and mods, the ones that are the open systems, they get open to being used with alchemy. So kids or young adults or anyone who's using these products are sometimes mixing chemicals, and that can get dangerous because there becomes a variation in how much chemical and the metals and the ultrafine particles and the amount of nicotine that's in that becomes dangerous. So there's just some unintended consequences with that as we move forward. And then I just wanted to talk to you guys about other tobacco products. These are called OTPs. So these are basically anything that isn't a cigarette, a traditional cigarette. So these again could be hookah, loose tobacco that you use in pipes, snuff, vape pens. And a misconception is that hookah is actually safer. So it usually has coals, it uses some water, and there's flavors to it. And that is a very strong misconception, because what that actually does, it actually helps those chemicals penetrate your lungs deeper and can cause more damage. So those are just some things that I wanted us to point out as we talk more about this, about the dangers of tobacco. These are other products here. Doesn't look like they loaded onto my screen here, so I do apologize. But basically, there's snuff, and this is a moist powder. It's smokeless tobacco, and you basically put it between your cheeks, and it can cause later on gum disease. It can cause mouth cancer. It's nasty stuff. There are orbs, and that is a dissolvable nicotine oral product. There are Camel strips. These ones look like little Listerine strips, if you guys remember those. And there's also Camel sticks. These ones kind of resemble toothpicks. So like I said, there's a variety of tobacco products to watch out for. And I apologize that we don't have the images here. Oh, there they go, they're popping up now, as you can see. And then some of these, the orbs can be the size of Tic Tacs. So these are very easy to conceal for some people. Not that our youth is readily using these, but in more rural areas, these are more common. And then here are some emerging tobacco products. There is the IQOS. This is a heat not burn new product that's coming out that was just approved by the FDA. These ones look sleek and new, and it's very high tech. basically these ones aren't combustible, so it doesn't actually combust. So the idea is that there's less exposure, but that doesn't mean that they're safe. And then there's also these new oral pouches. They come in a variety of flavors. And so flavors with youth can be very dangerous, for the reasons being that they're very appealing. You know, when you come to talk about strawberry or mango, those types of things that youth normally like, and colorful things like that, they become appealing. So just some things to watch out for. And again, although some of these products may say that they reduce exposure, that does not mean that they're safe. And although FDA does approve these, there is some risk to them. There's no safe level of nicotine. And like I said earlier, youth or people who don't use tobacco products should not use these products. And then speaking about flavored products here, in 2020, it was found that 85% of high school students and 74% of middle school students use some kind of flavored tobacco product in the United States. And these products come in, like I said, an array of flavors, about 7,000 different flavors specifically for e-cigarettes. And most of these flavors, like I had mentioned, they may be safe for consumption, but that does not mean that they're safe for inhalation. It can actually cause a lot of issues with your respiratory system. So as you can see here, these are the same flavors that kids grew up with, and now the tobacco industry is using those to lure youth into using these products. And this is an ongoing issue. And recently, there has been a federal ban for flavored tobacco products that does leave some loopholes with specific products, such as the disposable products. So there are still some gaps. There's still some work to be done there. But just so all you are aware, this is the current issue, and this is the main reason why youth use tobacco products. If you ask youth why they first started using a tobacco product, they're usually going to say they were curious about a flavor or something along those lines. And these are just other flavors here, like Sour Patches, Reese's. You know, these are, like I said, very familiar products that kids grew up with, like Nerds, Jolly Ranchers. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the addiction cycle. And this addiction cycle is the same for any other drug, whether that be nicotine, heroin, or cocaine. The basics is pretty much the same. So within one puff, it takes about 10 seconds for that to reach your brain. That releases certain endorphins like dopamine and norepinephrine, and it gives you that happy feeling, and it, you know, stabilizes your mood. But then as nicotine starts to drop down to a certain level, a signal is sent to your brain that you start to crave that again. And then there's that vicious cycle of addiction all over again. One thing I want to mention is that about 80% of people who are dependent on these tobacco products do experience some kind of withdrawal when they stop using these products. Withdrawal symptoms are not easy. They create agitation, anxiety, mood swings, insomnia, sweating. So it's not fun when people try to quit this product. So this vicious cycle of addiction is very harmful. Another thing, this is not the only reason that tobacco products are dangerous, or because of addiction. There are other reasons, but this primes an adolescent brain to be addicted, and then this puts them at risk for other addictions to other drugs in the future. And so that's the worry with this, with nicotine being used with youth. Some of the other risks of why tobacco products are so deadly is it's mostly because of the secondhand smoke, that combustion, that piece of it. There are over 7,000 chemicals in that smoke, and at least 70 of those are actually cancer causing. So that we know, and like I said, that has been researched for many, many years. And with e-cigarettes, that's something that's just coming to light, and we're still learning about it. But basically, these chemicals can cause lung disease, such as COPD. They can cause cancer. Although e-cigarettes and aerosols may have fewer toxin, they have pretty similar chemicals that can cause similar issues. And then other chemicals that are found in this are like arsenic, benzene, formaldehyde, which is used to preserve dead bodies, and there's carbon monoxide. So there's all these nasty things in the smoke that can be very dangerous. And basically, this is secondhand smoke is the smoke inhaled involuntarily by someone who is nearby who is using these products. And then, as you can see in this image, there's also third-hand smoke. And so this is basically the residue that stains walls. If you've ever been in a smoker's house and they move an object, this is maybe what you see. Or when you walk into an area and you smell smoke, but there's nobody smoking, that's third-hand smoke. That's that residue left behind. And then there's still research being done for third-hand aerosol. Another thing is your pets. Your dogs and cats are actually twice as likely to get cancer if their owners smoke. A lot of us have, pets, dogs and cats, and they groom themselves. So that leftover residue is what they pick up when they clean themselves. It's actually, there was a study done that actually showed that eating 1 to 5 cigarettes or even a third could actually kill your pet. So those are just some scary things that you need to think about. And not just that, but small children have also been victim to eating or ingesting these things because they don't know. They're young, and same thing with animals. So just things to be mindful of. And then I just want to point out that nicotine affects all the body systems. All your body systems are connected. So this image here is just reflecting all your body parts. So it can affect your brain, your heart, your reproductive system, your gastrointestinal system, your respiratory system, your muscle system. Everything is connected, and unfortunately, nicotine affects all of them. And so when you're using these products, know that they can cause cardiovascular disease, strokes, asthma. Like I had said, nicotine is a poisonous substance, and it can lead to overdose and even death. So those who do use it can often have ear, eye, and throat irritation. Is very common among those who use e-cigarettes. And these are just some more health and harm that's caused by using tobacco products. Most e-cigarettes do contain nicotine. A research study done by the CDC showed that even e-cigarettes that said that they had zero nicotine, 99% of those were shown that they did contain some amount of nicotine in them. Most of these products probably round up the number for it to be zero, but there is a small percentage in there. Like I said earlier, there's no safe level of nicotine. So beware of those types of advertisements. Again, nicotine is very harmful to a developing brain. It can be very addicting, and it basically affects those parts of the brain that give you the ability to control your attention, learning, your mood, your impulse control. So again, it puts you at risk for other addictions with other drugs later in life. Here are some other risks. I had mentioned that you can have a nicotine overdose. There's nicotine poisoning. There's issues with the processing of heating this. There are unintended injuries that come with this, but some of those symptoms for a nicotine overdose are having nausea, vomiting, dizziness, that you can have seizures from swallowing this nicotine e-juice or e-liquid. It goes by various names, but a seizure can be anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes after consumption. This can cause death. There was actually a report from the Poison Control Call Center that 50% of the calls they received were due to e-cigarettes, and it was for children under the age of 5 who had either swallowed, inhaled, or had been exposed through skin contact. And then, like I said, these can show symptoms within 15 minutes, depending on how they were exposed. The process of heating the nicotine solutions has, again, different carcinogens. There's chemical reactions happening with these liquids and so forth. So there's various dangers. I have an image here of a gentleman who has an actual e-cigarette or vape in his pocket that exploded, and that was caught on camera. And these are just some images of some potential burns that are possible from this. So these injuries are probably not reported as much as they should be. These might explode at home and nobody knows and nobody says anything, or they, think it's no big deal. But these happen more commonly than we think. So just some things to be mindful of. So this is still a public health concern. Although we've done a great job with declining cigarette smoking, back in 1964, we had the first Surgeon General report that gave light that tobacco products were health risk and were dangerous. We still have issues with different race, ethnicities, education levels being targeted by these industries. Here is our current Surgeon General, Jerome Adams. He has expressed concern with e-cigarettes and actually called it an epidemic back in 2018. So this was prior to the current pandemic that we're experiencing. But he made it clear that we need to do something about this, that we need to educate our youth so they can make their decisions based on having the proper education and knowledge before they do something. So this is just something, again, that has been put on the back burner due to our current pandemic, but it's something that we do need to address moving forward. The other public health concern with this is that with new emerging tobacco products, they're renormalizing the image of smoking. A lot of these devices mimic smoking behaviors. There's also a lot of dual use. So a lot of people who smoke cigarettes use either chew, dip, they use e-cigarettes. So there's a lot of use of different products combined together. And most of these can be a gateway back to cigarettes and other tobacco products. And there's long-term health effects. So here, I wanted to talk to you guys about some of the tools that tobacco has. And a lot of this are things that, again, because of the situations that we're in, we don't really think about. But although we've been doing a great job with reducing cigarette smoking, we still have 3.6% of high school students who say that they use cigarettes. So if you put that into perspective, that's about 5,300 students who are smoking cigarettes. And then those who become daily smokers under the age of 18 are 600 individuals a year. That's a pretty large number that we still need to be concerned about. We still have work to do to be able to reduce that. And then cancer deaths in Nevada attributed to smoking, it's still at about 31%. Adults who die each year of smoking is about 4,100 individuals. And then for teens under the age of 18, who will ultimately die prematurely because of smoking is still 41,000. So smoking is still a very large concern for us, as it kills more than alcohol, AIDS, crashes, illegal drugs, murders, and that's combined. So this is still a huge problem.
Susie, I'm just going to stop you there. I'm really glad you're highlighting that, because more often than not in the news, more often than not in education and campaigns, heroin, opioids, it's big in the news. It's kind of new. And those deaths and uses and things are highlighted in the news, and kids see them and the focus is on that. And
Yep.
Oftentimes smoking is kind of like, it's normalized. You see adults doing it everywhere with no consequence, no side effects. And oftentimes it's kind of overlooked as a drug and an addiction,
Yep.
like a gateway drug kind of for addiction, and changes the kids' brains. And I really like that you're highlighting that and exposing the people on the Zoom call to that, because I think it's really overlooked.
Yes, extremely overlooked, and it's something just that we need to focus back on. Another concerning thing is the financial cost that this brings, the toll of that. And so for Nevada, the direct cost for smoking is about 1.8 billion. So that's a huge cost. And for Medicaid cost associated to smoking in Nevada is 148.9 million. So there's a lot of money being spent due to this tobacco toll. The amounts don't include the exposure to secondhand smoke. These are just directly costs associated to those who are smoking. There's probably a higher cost due to secondhand smoke that we just don't have that data for. So again, things to be mindful of. A lot of people, it gets into that controversy of telling somebody if they have the right or they don't have the right to smoke. But oftentimes it affects more than just the individual who's smoking. So I wanted to show you guys some data. There is a youth risk behavioral surveillance survey that we call the YRBS here in Nevada. It is completed by UNR. Basically, it assessed high-risk behaviors and changes in health. This data is analyzed and released every 2 years, and the most recent data we have is from 2019. And this demonstrates the needs in the community. So this isn't just for tobacco, but I'm just going to focus on the tobacco data that has been provided to us. And I basically made a graph so you guys could see a visual of the smoking and vaping stats here in Nevada for specifically our high school students. So in the light blue, it's the 2017 data, and in the darker blue, it's the 2019 data. So a comparison of products that were electronic vapor products that were ever used by high school students back in 2017 was about at 42.5%. In 2019, that rose to 44%. That's almost half of high school students in Nevada using electronic vapor product, which could be an e-cigarette, hookah, all what the kids are calling them, jewels, they call them by their name. So that's what this is showing here. And then they asked how many had used these products in the last 30 days of taking the survey. And in 2017, 15% admitted that they had been using this product in the last 30 days. But in 2019, there was a pretty big jump to 22.5%. So you can see that the concern is rising. And then on the far right is that we're doing a good job at having kids know and be aware that smoking cigarettes is dangerous and harmful. So you can see in 2017, there was 23.8% of students who admitted to ever smoking cigarettes. And in 2019, it decreased to 18%. So that's a win for us. We can pat ourselves on the back, but there's still work to be done, like I said. Those who smoked cigarettes in the last 30 days, though, in 2017, it was 16.6%. and it went down to 3.6%. And like I said earlier, that still is equivalent to about 5,000 students who are still smoking. And then I wanted to show you guys some data hitting a little bit closer to home. This is targeting the Carson City area, specifically our Carson City High School students. And so as you can see here, that our main concern is mostly with the electronic vapor products. And back in 2017, we were at 17% here in Carson City. And in 2019, that jumped to 38.8%. That's almost 40% of the students in Carson City who are using these products. Again, if you look to your right, we're doing better with cigarettes, but there's still a ways to go. And even in Carson City, we're above that 3.6%. In 2019, we were at 5.5% of students who are using cigarettes. So this is just a little bit closer to home of the work and the education that we need to do with our youth.
You know, I'm really curious, Susie, to see what you said it's done every 2 years, so it'll be 2021 this school year. I'm really curious with COVID thrown in there, what those numbers will be skewed with, because I think a lot of students use because of peer acceptance. You know, they do with their peers, they do with their friends. And with COVID, we're like separated from our friends and not at school and not having to put up that I'm cool, I want to be accepted by my peers, I want to look the part and that. So I'm worried if the next YRBS numbers will be accurate.
Yeah, and our thought is that they are going to be a little bit lower. The data, you know, is going to be able to take that into account that there was a pandemic. So we're interested to see those numbers as well. And we'll see when they get here. Another thing I want to talk to you guys about are the tactics that the tobacco company and how they market. The tobacco industry nationwide uses about $9.1 billion to market their products. In Nevada, it's estimated that they use about $71.5 million. And that's a lot of money to spend for marketing. And, you know, unfortunately, their marketing strategies do work. There was a study actually done that showed that kids were twice as sensitive to tobacco advertisements as adults and were more likely to be influenced to smoke because of these ads that the tobacco company is releasing. So more than actual peer pressure, which was interesting to find out that these could be so influential on our youth. And it's scary to think about because these are large sums of money that are going into these large advertising campaigns for these tobacco products. And I just wanted to point out that the big tobacco industries and the e-cigarette companies are basically essentially one. They both use celebrity spokesmen. They both use social media influencers. They print ads for rugged men, beautiful women. They sponsor sports, music festivals that are appealing to youth. They use both sweet flavors or virtually any kind of flavor. I mean, even menthol is a flavor. And they can use they're not supposed to use cartoons, but they do use cartoons that are appealing to youth. And the majority of their ads usually don't encourage quitting. They just say to switch to a different product, specifically like switch from cigarettes to e-cigarettes. But we know very well that there's a lot of dual use happening and the complete switch is not happening. And then I just wanted to go back a little bit of what the tobacco industry ads used to look like when it was just cigarettes. Their methods, they would use colorful pictures, happy looking people, beautiful women, cool guys to promote their products. They have a lot of different tactics that they used. Early research of tobacco was actually not done by universities or hospitals or government agencies. They were done by the tobacco industries. So just putting into perspective that they are crafty and they know how to market their products. They still do research, and they still, you know, they have to present it now to the FDA of how their products are and all that stuff. But there needs to be other outside agencies that continue to monitor them just because of past behaviors that they have had. Because these are current e-cigarette marketing ads. And as you can see, they're just as colorful, and they still use beautiful women, and they still, you know, they still have marketing strategies that, although they say are not marketed towards youth, you could argue the other way around, that these are marketed towards youth. They have sales that go on that are very appealing to youth or those who are from lower socioeconomic status. And this is just a couple of examples. And this is just giving you a comparison of the ads from then to now. And if you really look at them, you can't tell much of a difference of which one's the older ad and which is a newer ad. So the ones on the right are advertising cigarettes, and the ones on the left are advertising e-cigarettes. Again, they're pretty much virtually one and the same because they use the same tactics, and they're basically the same companies who are advertising these products. And then, although these celebrities may not be paid to use these products, this just shows how we talked about earlier that youth are very influenced by others and advertisements. And when you see big celebrities using these products and falling into that same vicious addiction cycle, it's a little bit scary. They're not only using cigarettes, but they're using other products like e-cigarettes, which is becoming very popular with our youth. And I wanted to talk about a little bit, and again, this is a little bit controversial, about electronic cigarettes and cessation. There's a big, I wouldn't say misconception, but there's still research being done about e-cigarettes being used to help those who smoke cigarettes quit. At this time, there isn't enough evidence that shows that. So we do need to do more research. Currently, the FDA hasn't approved e-cigarettes to be a smoking aid or to quit smoking. But there has been comments that it may have some benefits. And here are where those benefits at this point draw the line. The benefit would be those who are adult smokers who would completely substitute the use of regular cigarettes or other tobacco products. Again, that does not mean dual using, where you use e-cigarettes a little bit and then you're going to use your cigarettes or your chew. This means strictly switching over. Again, these are not safe for you. These are not safe for young adults, pregnant adults, or those adults who are not using tobacco products. But I do want to mention that among this completely switch to e-cigarettes, the overall goal would be to eventually quit using or stop using these e-cigarettes completely, so you can achieve the maximum health benefits. Because again, the nicotine is what causes a lot of the issues. It affects, like I said, all those systems in your body. So the ultimate goal is to completely get rid of this, have a tobacco-free generation moving forward, and being tobacco-free overall. And then these are some cessation resources I want to mention. Nevada has a Nevada Quit line. You can call the 1-800-QUIT-NOW. And there are multiple languages, but we do have a specific one for Spanish-speaking residents. It is 1-855-Déjalo Ya, and that one is 1-855-335-3569. But like I said, you can you can always call the 1-800-QUIT-NOW, and they would redirect you if you needed a different language. But this is a free service, and they can see people from 13 years old and older. This is open 24 hours, Monday through Sunday. There are some holiday exceptions, but this has evidence-based counseling support. It's basically a support system to help you quit. You'll have one-on-one coaching. There's NRT, which is nicotine replacement therapy, that has been found to be helpful for those who are looking to quit. And this is when it's available, and they're fast and they're confidential. So this is a resource that's available for all Nevadans. There's another resource that is specifically for youth. It is the My Life, My Quit. This one, again, it's free, confidential, and it's a way to help you quit smoking or vaping. This one can be accessed through texting. You can text Start My Quit at 36072, or you can call or text them at 855-891-9989, or you can go online onto the My Life, My Quit. You can check it out. It has lots of resources, kind of giving kids information why it's important to quit. This one is for Nevada residents between the ages of 11 and 17, because we are seeing that it is becoming younger and younger, that kids are being exposed to smoking and e-cigarettes. So that is a reason that they've decreased the age. As you saw in the previous slide, the Nevada Quit line does 13 and up. So this one is specifically for those teenagers 11 to 17 years old. And then I just wanted, sorry about that, to mention that our program works with different policies. So we work with getting policies passed for Tobacco 21. We work with policies related to the Clean Indoor Air Act, which has minimal distancing. We try to do multi-housing, smoke-free workplaces, smoke-free events. And then we also work with the funding from SB 263, which is that new taxation that passed this past legislature. So we have programs available. We're able to do presentations if needed. If there is need for resources or you need guidance, you can always contact us. But I would say that the best way that youth can be involved is to look and be a part of local youth groups. Our partnership Carson City has great youth groups here at the Carson High School, within middle school. So reach out to your teachers, reach out to Samantha and your teachers, Erin, and they can give you that information. And that's how you can be a part of that and really make that change. And I want to thank everybody for, taking your time. I know it's late in the day, but this is my contact information. If you have questions, if you need something, please don't hesitate to call us. Email me. You can always go onto our website, gethealthycarsoncity.org, for other services that are provided by the Carson City Health and Human Services. But thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I just wanted to pipe in there when you were talking about the youth groups. This year's been a little challenging with getting youth groups going, and being a COVID year, and the kids are only there once a week. That would mean we need several days to have all the kids be able to attend a meeting for youth group. But there is a camp that Partnership Carson City is has put together with other coalitions in the state, and that will be in May. So that's an opportunity that I'll be sharing with my classes, but hopefully we can do a youth group next year. They've been really successful over the years, and a lot of students have been involved. And it's been a safe way to be involved in something other than just coming to school to go to school. So a lot of fun activities there. Susie, I am going to share those resources because our classes are learning about tobacco next week in class. So those resources were very valuable, and I think they'll be a good addition to my lesson that I'm teaching next week. So I appreciate you sharing those. And that's really cool that you have a Spanish version and an English version of that helpline, the Never Quit line. So that's really cool.
Of course. And then if anybody ever needs any resources, please reach out. We can provide those, whether that's for the Nevada Quit Line resources or the My Life, My Quit. We can always provide those. There are posters and flyers and brochures that we can give you access to. You also have the ability to go onto the My Life, My Quit and print those out yourself if that's what you would like to do, but we can always provide those for you if needed.
Cool. So I'm just going to open it up for question and answer session. If anybody has any questions, they can unmute themselves, bottom left portion of their screen, or you can put it in the chat box and I will address it and bring it up to Susie. Does anybody have any questions for Susie tonight? One of the things I heard you talk about, Susie, was, smoking, and it's been so normalized, it's kind of everywhere. And I know at the school, we used to have Smokers Corner across the street. And then when they shut down our campus, closed campus, Smokers Corner wasn't available to students. And it became less of a visual issue at our school on campus. The kids would come reeking of smoke in the middle of the day after lunch or after nutrition breaks. So that's kind of been nice, and with COVID, like I said, people aren't going out and meeting with people and having a smoke. But I don't think students realize the dangers of smoking and secondhand smoke like you brought up. So I'm really glad you brought that up. But because it's so normalized, I don't think students realize that it's dangerous.
Yeah, a lot of youth don't realize the dangers, and I believe that has a lot to do with us as adults, needing to educate them on that so they can make better decisions for themselves. A thing I do want to mention is with COVID, smokers have been put on the high risk list of those who can potentially be exposed to COVID. So it is encouraged to, if you are vaping or if you are smoking, that you do try to quit, and you can use these resources. And like I said, you can always reach out to either Carson City Health and Human Services or partnership Carson City for other resources that are available. There are other programs. I know that sometimes our quit lines are an all size fits all. There are different programs available out there for students and adults. So just reach out and we can always help you with that.
Yeah.
I have a question for the youth. Oh, sorry. You can go ahead, Erin.
No, go ahead.
So I have a question for the youth that are on here, and don't feel like you're ratting yourself out or your friends, but I'm just curious to know, with COVID and distance learning, is a lot of the youth that I work with have told me that it's easier and more acceptable for youth to use during distance learning because it's easier to just shut off your camera and you can use while you're in class, or you're just at home in general and your parents may be at work. And so I'm just curious if any of you have seen or know about people your age using more with distance learning.
So people that are on, students that are on, please answer that either in the chat or unmute yourself.
Yay, I got a yes. Okay, we got one answer. Don't be shy, guys. No, okay, we got a couple. Interesting. Never seen it, never do it. No, yes. Okay.
And to be honest with you, I had students last year when we were in person before the COVID thing hit. Kids would vape in class. They would hide it from me, and I've caught numerous kids, but they would, like tuck their shirt in and vape and, do their little thing and exhale it, or go out to the bathroom and vape. And I knew they were taking vape pens to the bathroom. So I don't know what, like being home, like, are you guys still vaping? Are you still using those? I would like to know that, and just be honest. Like, I'm not going to reach out to your parents and say, guess what your son said in the chat tonight? Like, I mean, just throwing it out there. I never vape. Good.
Thank you for all of your answers. I feel like it's very mixed across the board. I've heard it's, happening a lot more. Some people it's not, all of that. So I appreciate all your answers and for being honest.
Yeah. It takes a lot of maturity to be able to express like, yeah, no, it is happening, or yeah, I don't do it. Like it does, that's a turn up the mature dial right there. So I appreciate that as well.
I had a question for the youth. I know, like I said, the YRBS comes out with this data every 2 years. So the data that we have is from 2019. That's prior to the pandemic.
Mhm.
But are you guys seeing the use of e-cigarettes, or do you guys know that people are that about almost half of the people you might know are using these products? Do you believe that to be true? Or is our data as accurate as it seems?
Yeah, look at those. Yes, yes. Oh, solid yeses, man. Holy cow. Look at that. Almost every single one. I've not seen one no yet. Okay, I have a question then for you guys. And then do you think students your age, like teenagers, whether it be freshmen, whether it be seniors, do you think people are using e-cigarettes and vape preferably over cigarettes? Regular cigarettes? Yes, 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 yes. Cool.
And it looks like Isabel had a question, a really good question. Let me go back. She said, I truly want to know, even though you don't want us to be smoking at all, what would you say is safer, nicotine or weed?
That was asked to me today after school.
It's a good question.
It is. It's a very good question.
So just so you guys know, our program is heavily focused on tobacco, but the little bit, I'm not the expert on marijuana, but from my understanding is that if you're smoking marijuana or if you're smoking a cigarette, that combustion in that smoke and what you're inhaling can be just as harmful as if you're smoking a cigarette. So if you're smoking weed and it's combusting and it's letting out those chemicals, it can be just as harmful to your respiratory system as if you were smoking a traditional cigarette. So that is what I equate it to. I suggest that you get informed and ask for resources and make informed decisions when you're going to decide whether something is better than the other, because tobacco products are very deadly, like I said. About 41,000 are predetermined to die prematurely because of that. So maybe comparing it to nicotine products should not always be the go-to. Just because it's safer doesn't mean it's safe.
And I'm
Isabel,
going to jump in a little bit here too. Yeah, so she said, true, but most marijuana is medical and is a natural plant, even though there are chemicals that are put into marijuana as well. So I'm going to start off by saying this, Isabel. I am presenting on marijuana the 18th of March.
I was just
So
gonna
I
say,
I highly suggest you chime in on that one, because I can dive really deep into that one. But I'll give you just kind of like a little brief thing of that. Yes, while marijuana is legal in the state of Nevada for medical and recreational, the marijuana that is produced now in modern day versus the marijuana that was produced back in the 80s and 90s of what our parents were smoking is so much more potent by up to 80%, because they can chemically add more THC, CBD, other chemicals, and it's made in these plants that they can turn around and create these really extravagant, I see someone else say about edibles, everything. So whether it's the loose leaf flower, it's edibles, it's smoking it out of a vape pen and getting the liquid and like the wax forms of it, all of that. yes, while it is legal, it's not as safe because it is more potent. There are more chemicals added. And depending on how you are using it, a lot of people are now turning to the combustible forms of it, where you can put that liquid into a device that is similar to an e-cig. So essentially you would be using the e-cig combustible forms alongside the marijuana, which is basically doubling down on the dangers. So in a very brief synopsis, I'm going to leave you with that. And I hope that you tune in till the 18th so I can dive deeper into that, if
Yeah.
that helps a little bit.
I'm glad you answered that, because that's exactly what I was going to say. It depends on where you're getting it, who you're getting it from, and what it was mixed with. Yes, it is a natural plant, but the way you receive it is not the natural plant form, especially today. It's the THC and how you use it. So yeah, I was just going to say that we have another presentation next week with Terry Kearns with the Attorney General's office, and that's going to be on opioids, which is prescription drugs and heroin and opioids. And then the following week will be with Samantha, or I think we're back with Susie for vaping, I think, and then we're back with Samantha for marijuana. So there's some really good ones lined up that will answer all of your questions that you have. I'm glad you have those questions, because those are fabulous questions. I see Zach has a couple. Yeah, but you guys are like awesome. Like, I love the questions you're coming up with.
Yes, great questions, you guys. And then just so you know, tobacco is also a plant, and it's legal, and there's just as much harm that comes from tobacco. So just keep that in mind when you guys are thinking about marijuana, and watch Sam's presentation coming up.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? These are great. I love them. Oh, Isabel had another question there. Do you see it, Sam? Oh.
I think
Love it.
these ones are more like comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So if there's any other questions, you can email me. You can email Susie. I will be posting on our Google Classroom these resources and talking about them next week during our tobacco lesson. But if anybody else has any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll be on here for a little second. Philip asked, when's the next meeting? That will be next Thursday, same time, same place, but next Thursday. And it is opioids is the topic. So we'll be here again next Thursday. You guys, and I mentioned earlier that Partnership Carson City is hosting the Nevada State Youth Camp, and that will be May 15th and 16th. I'll post that flyer in our Google Classroom, but I'll be talking about it tomorrow in class and next week in class. But you're all welcome to join. It's well, they're bringing in national speakers and really good presenters on some of these topics that you guys are talking about, and some of the questions that you guys have about drugs, alcohol, decision-making, being a responsible youth. And it was awesome. 2 years ago, we got to go to the lake and have a camp out, but this year with the pandemic, we're doing a virtual, but it will be in person at Partnership Carson City. So you're all welcome to join. I'll have some flyers in my class and post it up in my classroom as well. But if you're interested in something like that, it's really, really cool and a great opportunity to explore making good decisions in life as a team. So just reading some of the more comments. So anyway, I'm going to invite some of you personally, but also it's open to everybody. So if you're interested in that, let me know May 15th and 16th.
Looks like we have one more question. Let's see. So why does a person who uses nicotine get angry when they don't use nicotine anymore, or if they can't use it?
So it sounds like you're talking about when they're going through withdrawals, is my assumption. So basically, when we talked about that addiction cycle, your body sends a signal to your brain telling it that it needs more. It's craving this specific chemical. and the normal reaction would be to do that again. But if you're trying to quit, you're not going to do that. So you get these withdrawal symptoms that can make you angry, can have mood swings. So that's the reason that quitting is so difficult. It's because of those withdrawal symptoms. You don't want to go through them. So most people fall back into reusing these products. So nicotine is really the reason why people continue to use tobacco products. And that is why it's very difficult to quit. It is not easy. So we want to prevent you from going through that. And we recommend that as youth, you don't use these products because it doesn't just prime you for nicotine addiction, it primes you for other possible drug addictions, and it primes your brain because you lose, like I said earlier, you lose that impulse control, the ability to concentrate, to learn. So certain things that your brain would have developed when you turn, a mature brain is technically until you're 25. So during that period of time, that nicotine is affecting the way that your brain is structured chemically.
Awesome. Are there any last minute questions? Those were all great ones.
That's great questions. So if you guys have more, you have my email. You can always email me. Just let me know that is part of this presentation. I can always respond to you, or you can give them to Miss Bean or Samantha, and they can always reach out to me. Happy to provide more information.
Cool. Well, thank you, Susie, for coming tonight. And I appreciate your expertise and you sharing information and resources with our students. And thank you, Samantha, for hosting with Partnership Carson City. I appreciate you both for being here, as well as I appreciate any parents and students that have attended tonight. Thanks for coming, and I will see you next Thursday.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.